The Mercedes-Benz Interview Lounge.
You know what? We have some incredible podcasts rolling on the iHeartRadio network, and one of them we've got to talk about with Steve Bolton and Sage. It's called In Service Of. You know, we always talk about how celebrities, they're great. Artists give us great music, and actors give us great performances on stage or on film. But they can use that platform to say, hey, there's more to me I can give. I can be of service to many people using my platform. And is this sort of what In Service Of the podcast is all about, guys?
Definitely. And there's another component as well, that service often is a big source of creative inspiration and fuel for a lot of artists and change makers. So we talk about why these things are important to them and how they're bringing them to the world. And it's really inspiring to hear kind of where these origin stories started and where they're at now. And we have some really incredibly inspiring people on. And yeah, Steve, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, it's really funny because having interviewed literally everybody from James Brown to Taylor Swift, artists and Elvis, as you know, having spoken to everybody, the question they hate most in the world, what do you listen to? Who are your influences? They're so bored with that stuff. And what I started finding is when I interviewed people about their charity work, they got so excited. I had done stories with Tommy Lee from Motley Crue, Travis Barker, Mark Hoppus from Blink on their dog rescues. Alice Cooper once said to me, and this is the quote that inspired the show, fame is the brand that allows you to do good. And even Ozzy Osbourne said to me, it's effing great to be Ozzy. I've got to give back. So they get excited and inspired to talk about that. Because as you know, they're so bored talking about who do you listen to? What are your influences? Tell me about the new song.
You know, we always think, oh, by the way, Sage is an artist, and she has an album coming out next year. And, of course, Steve has been writing for so many incredible publications like Rolling Stone and Forbes and Billboard, Variety. So, yeah, you have interviewed the biggest of the best. We learn about what makes these artists tick, what they're interested in. And so next time you hear their music, it sounds different because you know them as a person. You know them as a human being rather than just an artist. And I think that's a great thing to remember as well. Jane Goodall, who we all love Jane Goodall. I know one of your interviews is with her. Talk about that experience.
Yeah, that was so remarkable. You know, it was early in the morning, so we were just like so drawn in by her. Like just being across on the Zoom with her, you can just feel her palpable, just transformative energy. And she's, over 90 right now, and she was just running circles around us. Steve and I are both incredible animal lovers. I grew up on an animal rescue farm, and Steve has rescued many dogs. And I know, Elvis, you are also a big animal lover. So just her, she's always been a huge inspiration to me and my family. And her emphasis on the sentience in all beings is really remarkable. We spoke to her a bit about music, and that was kind of funny. She's a huge classical music lover, and she loves being, with herself, and her mission of hope is really, really inspiring. And just hearing her story, like right after, just makes you want to like go out in the world and do something, and take action. So we're really hoping that this podcast will really inspire people to follow what they're in service of and take action about it.
I was going to ask you guys, like, you've interviewed so many people. Is there somebody that we would be shocked at how many amazing good things that they do? Like, we would never have thought that person did that much charity work?
No, but what's interesting is how different everybody's charity work is. So, for example, Ryan Tedder from One Republic we did was awesome. And he was telling us that sometimes he likes to keep it very private and do things like, for example, if a friend of his is struggling, he'll literally buy him a car. And we're just like, that's so freaking cool. Everybody does it in so much different ways. For some people, it's a very grandiose thing. For other people, it's very small and, sort of on the more micro. So, but I don't think there's anybody who you would be surprised. Well, I don't know. I mean, probably Kid Rock, but we're never going to talk to him, so it doesn't matter.
There are people, there are artists who do want to get their thoughts out as far as their political views. And sometimes they are told by the public, shut up, we just want to hear you sing, you know. But when it comes to doing charitable, great things for other people, you can't go wrong, you know. And so if they could just highlight those things, the great things, and the money they're raising and the awareness that they're rising, I think that's a great lane to stay in. What do you think, Gandhi?
Yeah, so through all of this, to Sage and Steve, have you guys found yourselves getting more involved in charity work? And are there specific foundations or organizations that are close to your heart and you would recommend to other people?
You know, I was raised very much in the vein of conservation and animal advocacy, so that's always been a big part of me. I wouldn't say I've done it more as that's been a big part of my self-identity, but I would say my perspective on it has changed, especially how I do it. So I love the irony of the title of this podcast, because yes, we're talking about how artists give back, but we're also talking about how becoming a channel and a conduit for something greater, you can actually impact people more. So you can be doing the same things, but have a greater impact. So I've definitely been really meditating on that and really bringing that forward in my music creation and in my sharing of that, and poetry and writing and conversation, just having that trying to be more of a vessel, more of a pure vessel for those things to have a greater impact.
What about you, Steve?
For me, it's always been a matter of, look, I have this great public forum, so I can use it to help artists get their message out. So like I said, I've done stories on dog rescues. I mean, who the hell would have ever thought that Tommy Lee took his rescue dog on the road with him? But I love Tommy. He's amazing. Or like, for example, I'm not the hugest fan of Jason Derulo's music. He's a great guy. It's just not my style of music. But when he put together a Haiti benefit, I was like, yeah, I would love to talk to you about it because you're doing for a good cause. So anything that anybody wants to do to advocate and talk about stuff, I've been able to help get the word out. I just did a story yesterday with City of Hope. I've done one every year for the past like 4 or 5 years because it just helps them get the word out.
So in the podcast, in service of, which you can get on iHeart and on our app and other places you get your podcast, what are some of the incredible things that stick out in your mind with some of these interviews that are already like in the can and ready to go? Things to look forward to in the season.
Well, part of it is it's look, we talk about service, but it's also just fun. Like my conversations always go all over the place. We had an incredible conversation with Cameron Crowe. I spoke with Common and Pete Rock, and Pete Rock talking about meeting James Brown when he was 7 years old and how he used that in his recording with Common. And then Common was, saying how he didn't agree with something James Brown said. So I said to Common, would you ever disagree with James Brown in person? And he's like, oh, hell no. It's just fun stuff. With Leon Bridges, we went from the meaning of life to your favorite ice cream. So it's going to go all over the place. I think one of my favorite ones was Kate Hudson. That was amazing. The Shepard Fairey one was awesome. I mean, they've all been so fun. James Bay. I don't know, Sage, what about you?
I really love how I always learn so much. These people are just well springs of amazing information and stories, and I always leave learning so much. I loved the conversation with Shepard Fairey about symbolism, and it dawned on me that music is a form of symbolism, and I don't know, it's really special that it's also a platform to learn.
Well, this is what's great about In Service Of, and I can't wait to dig in. Because, we know a lot about these artists. We read your interviews. And we see them all over the place. But in this podcast, you get to learn a side that you never would learn anywhere else. And I'm sure they must love having people ask them about something other than, who's your favorite artist? Who are you listening to now? And that's why we should all listen to In Service Of. The podcast is premiering this week on the Elvis Duran Podcast Network, iHeart. Steve Baltin and Sage Balva, thank you so much for being on. Now you have us all curious. We're going to listen in, okay?
Thank you so much for having us. I will just add quickly, it's really funny because, again, you've interviewed thousands of people. I watched your Charlie Booth interview because I love Charlie. He's a friend, and it's so funny. They get asked the same things all the time. it's mind-boggling to me that when I ask people how they get back, everyone's like, whoa, I've never been asked that before. It's so funny. They're like shocked. Oh, and then also we talk to every single artist about their purpose. So no big deal. Just what's your purpose in life? That kind of stuff. So have some fun with that too.
Oh, wow. That would throw me way off. I mean, can you give me a moment? I'll come up with a purpose real quick. I don't know.
Well, it's really funny because we had Samara Joy on and she's like, she was joking about something and she wasn't sure what to say. And I was like, I just want one person to say, let's party. So, but Samara was great. She was a lot of fun. Everybody who's done it has actually really thought about the question and answered it and had fun with it.
I love it. Well, thank you guys so much for spending time with us, Steve Baltin and Sage Balva, of course, in service of. Now you know what it's about, so now you got to listen. Thank you guys. Have a great day today.
The Mercedes-Benz Interview Lounge.